The morning of March 20th, 1995 dawned like any other in Tokyo. Commuters crowded platforms heading to work or school. At 8 o'clock, a sinister act of terror unfolded in Tokyo's subway system. The sarin gas attack by Aum Shinrikyo shocked Japan and the world. It exposed the vulnerability of even the most secure societies. The events of that day continue to haunt Japan's collective memory. The Tokyo subway attack remains a pivotal event, prompting reflection and reform. Aum Shinrikyo, meaning supreme truth, was far from the peaceful image its name might project. Founded in 1984 by Shoko Asahara, it began as an obscure spiritual group. Asahara, a charismatic yet enigmatic figure, blended elements of Buddhism, Hinduism, and apocalyptic prophecies into a potent and dangerous ideology. He positioned himself as a godlike figure, promising his followers enlightenment and salvation. Aum's teachings, however, took a dark turn. Asahara preached about an inevitable apocalypse, claiming that only his followers would survive. He justified violence as a necessary means to cleanse the world and usher in a new era. This toxic mix of religious fervor, apocalyptic prophecies, and Asahara's growing megalomania created fertile ground for radicalization within the cult. Aum's activities soon escalated from spiritual practices to criminal acts. The group amassed wealth through questionable business ventures and began stockpiling weapons. They established a secluded compound at the foot of Mount Fuji, where they conducted clandestine experiments, including attempts to produce chemical weapons. The Japanese authorities, initially dismissive of the group, began taking notice. However, Aum's secretive nature and the authorities' reluctance to confront a religious organization allowed the cult to operate with relative impunity. This lack of decisive action would have tragic consequences, paving the way for the horrors that unfolded on March 20, 1995. The morning rush hour was in full swing as 5 Aum members, disguised as ordinary commuters, boarded different trains on 3 of Tokyo's busiest subway lines. Each carried a package containing liquid sarin, a deadly nerve agent. Their targets trains converging on Kasumigaseki and Nagatacho, the heart of Japan's government district. At precisely 8 o'clock in the morning, the attackers punctured the sarin packages with sharpened umbrella tips, releasing the deadly gas into the packed train cars. Passengers, unsuspecting and trapped in the enclosed spaces, inhaled the odorless, colorless vapor. Panic ensued as people began experiencing the terrifying effects of sarin poisoning: blurred vision, difficulty breathing, vomiting, convulsions. The attacks sent shockwaves through the city as emergency services struggled to comprehend the unfolding disaster. Subway lines were shut down and hospitals were overwhelmed with thousands of injured and panicked commuters. The attack claimed 14 lives and left over 6,000 injured, many with long-term health problems from the sarin exposure. The sarin attack plunged Tokyo into chaos. The scale and audacity of the attack were unprecedented, leaving authorities struggling to respond effectively. Confusion reigned as emergency services, initially unaware of the nature of the attack, scrambled to treat the rapidly growing number of victims. The identification of sarin as the weapon, a complex and volatile chemical, further complicated the response. Specialized teams equipped to handle hazardous materials were deployed to decontaminate affected areas, a painstaking and dangerous task. The attack brought the city to a standstill. Subway lines remained closed for days as investigations began. The fear of further attacks loomed large, casting a pall over the city. Despite the initial chaos, the response of ordinary citizens was remarkable. Doctors and nurses worked tirelessly, volunteering their services to treat the overwhelming number of victims. Strangers helped each other, sharing water and offering comfort in the face of fear and uncertainty. This spirit of resilience and community in the face of adversity became a defining characteristic of Japan's response to the tragedy. Section 5. Scars of Trauma, Victims, and a Nation in Mourning. The physical injuries inflicted by the sarin attack were only part of the story. Thousands suffered long-term health problems, including neurological damage, respiratory issues, and post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Many survivors faced ongoing medical treatment, their lives irrevocably altered by the events of that day. Beyond the physical, the psychological scars ran deep. The attack left an indelible mark on the collective psyche of Japan. The sense of safety and security once taken for granted was shattered. The attack forced the nation to confront its vulnerability to terrorism, a threat previously considered distant and foreign. The trauma extended beyond the immediate victims to their families, friends, and the wider community. Many struggled to cope with the loss of loved ones, the debilitating injuries sustained, and the psychological toll of the attack. The attack also had a profound impact on Japan's social fabric. It eroded trust in authority, as questions arose about the government's ability to protect its citizens. Section 6. Justice and Retribution, the Trial and its Aftermath. The investigation into the sarin attack quickly focused on Aum Shinrikyo, the cult's previous involvement in criminal activities and its possession of chemical weapons expertise made it the prime suspect. The subsequent investigation revealed the terrifying extent of Aum's activities. The cult had established a sophisticated infrastructure for producing chemical and biological weapons, and had even attempted to acquire nuclear material. The trial of Shoko Asahara and other key members of Aum Shinrikyo was a lengthy and complex affair. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence, including testimonies from former cult members and forensic evidence linking Aum to the attack. Asahara, once a charismatic leader, appeared delusional and unresponsive during the trial, further fueling public outrage. In 2004, Asahara was sentenced to death, along with 13 other high-ranking Aum members. The trial and convictions marked a significant victory for justice, holding the perpetrators accountable for their heinous crimes. However, the trial also raised uncomfortable questions about the cult's rise, and the societal factors that allowed it to operate with relative impunity. Section 7. Shifting Sands, Societal Changes and Heightened Security. The Tokyo subway attack had a profound and lasting impact on Japanese society. It forced a reassessment of security measures, leading to significant changes in law enforcement and counterterrorism strategies. The government enacted stricter laws regarding religious organizations, making it more difficult for groups to operate in secrecy and limiting their ability to amass wealth and power. The attack also led to a heightened awareness of the threat of terrorism within Japan. Law enforcement agencies expanded their intelligence gathering capabilities and strengthened their counter-terrorism units. New security measures such as surveillance cameras and bag checks became commonplace in public spaces, particularly in transportation hubs. The attack also sparked a national conversation about the role of media in covering terrorism. The extensive and often sensationalized coverage of the attack and the subsequent trial of Aum members raised concerns about the potential for media to inadvertently promote fear and prejudice. This led to a more cautious approach in reporting on sensitive security matters. Section 8. The enduring questions unraveling the motives. Despite the capture and conviction of those responsible, the Tokyo subway attack continues to raise questions about the motivations behind such an act of terror. What drove a group of seemingly ordinary individuals to commit such a horrific crime against their fellow citizens? Was it religious fanaticism, a desire for power, or a complex interplay of personal and societal factors? Some experts argue that Aum's ideology, with its apocalyptic prophecies and emphasis on Shoko Asahara's godlike status, played a central role in driving the group to violence. Others point to Asahara's megalomania and his desire to establish a new world order as a motivating factor. The attack can also be seen as a misguided attempt to hasten the apocalypse that Asahara preached. Understanding the motivations behind the attack is essential to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. It highlights the need to address the root causes of extremism, such as social isolation, economic inequality, and the allure of radical ideologies. By understanding the factors that can lead individuals down a path of violence, societies can better address these issues and create a more resilient and tolerant world. Section 9. Legacy of a Tragedy, Remembering and Learning. The Tokyo subway attack serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastating consequences of extremism. It underscores the importance of vigilance, understanding, and addressing the root causes that can lead individuals down a path of violence. The attack also highlighted the importance of international cooperation in combating terrorism. The attack continues to shape Japan's approach to security and its role in the world. It serves as a constant reminder of the importance of safeguarding human life and upholding democratic values. The lessons learned from this tragedy continue to inform Japan's efforts to promote peace and stability both domestically and internationally. The Tokyo subway attack was a defining moment in Japan's history. It exposed the vulnerability of modern society to the threat of terrorism and the devastating consequences of extremism. By remembering this tragedy and learning from its lessons, we can strive to create a safer and more peaceful world.